The most proven and favorite path to wealth creation in the United States is undoubtedly business ownership. You can invest, you can save. At the end of the day, none of those methodologies will reach financial success like owning and operating a successful business. That having been said, business ownership is heavily dependent on access to financial resources and, in particular, capital, leverage, debt. Business ownership, business operation relies heavily on access to debt. That having been said, President Trump, in the name of his efforts towards efficiency, has urged and demanded that the Department of Treasury cut funding to one of the most vital financial sources to underserved, underbanked, and disadvantaged communities. That includes the Black community and many others. We're going to talk about what this secret agency or lesser known agency is, why he decided to make cuts to it, what those cuts look like. And we're going to talk about the impact it's going to have on various underserved communities. And at the end, I'm going to give you some alternatives or some steps you can take if you fall in this bucket to continue to get access to financial resources or to start to position yourself to get access to financial resources. So that source of financial support or access to capital is CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions. I'm going to be covering this. I'm going to be reading from my laptop. I'm reading from some notes that I printed out so I can make sure I cover as many data points as possible. So please stay locked in and pay attention if you are from an underserved community of any sort and looking to start or grow a small business, looking for access to capital, and wanting to have an understanding of how the current political landscape has affected your ability to get access to capital. Because obviously, most of us know when you're just starting out, or even if you're reestablishing your finances, or even sometimes when you're established, mainstream financial institutions are difficult to access capital from. Most of us know that. So the CDFIs and other financial resources and sources for financial resources I'm going to be covering in this video are really essential to getting a lot of us off the ground and getting established to the point where we can walk into brick and mortar conventional banks and get access to capital. So CDFIs are specialized financial institutions certified by the CDFI Fund within the U.S. Department of the Treasury. They provide financial products and services to underserved communities. They are funded through a combination of federal grants, private investment, and in some cases from customer deposits. We'll get to that in a minute. So CDFIs are financial institutions including banks, credit unions, loan funds, and venture capital funds that have primary missions of promoting community development. They serve communities and individuals often underserved by traditional financial institutions. CDFIs are certified by the CDFI Fund, which is an agency within the U.S. Department of Treasury. We know agencies are being cut down, broken down, and stripped to their bare bones left and right with this current administration. So keep that in mind. They focus on providing financial products, services such as loans, investment, technical assistance, businesses, individuals, and organizations in low-income communities. Let's talk about how they're funded. Federal funding provides the CDFI Fund provides financial assistance and technical assistance awards to CDFIs in the form of loans, grants, equity investments, deposits, and credit union shares. Private investment. CDFIs attract capital from private and public sources, including individuals, corporations, and religious institutions. Consumer deposits. Depository CDFIs, like community development banks, community development credit unions, get capital from customers and non-member depositors. Matching funds. CDFIs are often required to match federal funding dollar for dollar with non-federal funds. So that is the funding source. Let's quickly talk about what President Trump has ordered with the Treasury Department and some of the fallout from that real quick so we can get to the guts of this deeper in the video. All right. President Trump signed an executive order on Friday to drastically scale back the Community Development Financial Institutions Fund, CDFI Fund. Y'all just heard me cover that a lot. Potentially eliminating a critical source of capital for Native-owned businesses and economic development in tribal communities. We're going to throw in rural communities, Black community. We're going to throw all of them in the bucket. They kind of focus on Native Americans in this, but we're going to throw everybody in the bucket. All right. The order directs the CDFI fund 6 other federal entities to eliminate all non-statutory components and reduce required operations to the minimum presence and function required by law. This could severely impact 69 Treasury certified native CDFIs, which provide essential financial services in the areas of traditional banks, including reservations and rural areas. All right, let's read a little bit further, and then we're gonna get into some separate discussion. So I want to get to a particular section. All right. The executive order has also prompted a bipartisan response from Congress. U.S. Senator Mark Warner, Democrat from Virginia, Mike Crapo, who is a Republican from Idaho, co-chairs of the Senate Community Development Finance Caucus, and issued a joint statement reaffirming their commitment to CDFI fund. When the CDFI fund was developed 30 years ago, it was created in the form of a private-public partnership to promote access to capital in the most underserved urban and rural communities. The senator stated, since 1994, the CDFI sector has grown to over 1,400 institutions located in every state and territory in the nation, and leveraging at least $8 in private sector investment for every $1 in public funding received. Very important. That means the vast majority of the funding to CDFIs has been private sector. So it has not been a government heavy dependent program. The order may also impact, let's see. Oh, okay, real quick. The senator noted that the caucus has grown to 28 members, evenly split between 14 Democrats and 14 Republicans, highlighted the bipartisan support for the CDFI fund's mission. We've got enough of them to read, and we're just going to talk one-to-one. So access to capital is essential. If you are from Black, Brown, Native, any other underserved, even rural America's underserved community that has traditionally been marginalized from the mainstream banking system and marginalized from the opportunity for the greatest wealth creation in the country, which is business ownership, then this is absolutely critical for you. Because what this basically means is not only are banks already tightening up and cracking down, given the economic circumstances and the political environment that we're in. So the already difficult financial institutions, mainstream financial institutions, are already hard to get capital from, are clamming up. In some cases, almost outright closing the door to certain programs. I just covered how Chase Bank just started and then stopped a no-doc program that was intended to kind of broaden out its accessibility to, new businesses and underbanked businesses and businesses that don't have a ton of financials put together yet, giving them access to capital that they may need and allowing them to leverage reasonable credit and strong banking relationships. They started and stopped that program right at or less than 12 months through the economic shifts that we've gone through in the last year and a half. So Chase cut their no-doc program, and a lot of other financial institutions are cutting back on theirs. With that having been said, now you have the backstop of financial institutions and financial resources like CDFIs and the myriad of financial institutions that make up CDFIs being crammed down by a lack of investment from the federal government given the orders of President Trump in his efforts to lean out the government and make it more efficient. We don't know how long any of this is going to last. It's just like the tariff conversation. At the end of the day, a lot of this has been a negotiating tactic, bargaining chip. But I have promoted the concept that President Trump, when I say this, has been adamant in his conviction to move more activity out of the government's hands into the private sector. He's all about that, right? Small government, reduce government, cut regulations, push all of this into the private sector and let the marketplace do its thing. If you are a business owner of color or some underserved community and you are familiar with CDFIs or haven't heard of CDFIs, but now that I put it on your radar, you're sitting there thinking like, damn, that sounds nice. That would be pretty cool to get access to some capital or have avenues that I can turn to, resources I can turn to get access to capital, though I don't have a lot of documentation, though I just started up, though I don't have a lot of revenue or potentially any revenue, though my credit is less than perfect, though I don't have collateral, etc. It is important for you to understand these institutions are not dead. As I covered a minute ago, the government's funding has only been an eighth, roughly, of the overall funding of these institutions. Now, that having been said, something I didn't fully read out, only about 23% of the native CDFI institutions have been able to fully meet client demand. So they're already relatively underfunded compared to the demand for their products and services. But that having been said, the bulk of that money comes from the private sector. So it's not like the door is completely closed on these financial institutions. The next thing that is important for you to understand is this is why I urge the financial education on my channel that I cover. It is important for you to make real effort towards getting yourself bankable and lendable to the best of your ability. I am all for the government implementing resources for underserved communities. At the end of the day, at one point in time, the government was the main backer and the main implementer to creating underserved communities. So by any means that it can try to reconcile its history in creating these wealth gaps and disparities, by all means, please do so. But that having been said, you have constant shifts in our economic and political system that happen all the time. You will have the presence of President Trump and Trump-like characters for the duration of the history of the duration of the lifeline of this country and any political system, to be honest, but especially one that is democratically ran, where you have politicians running in and out every 4 to 8 years. You're going to have a swing in political philosophies, and you have to be prepared as possible that that swing can go against the tide of your economic or financial circumstances. You have to put yourself in the best position possible to function in a mainstream economy, because at the end of the day, banks and financial institutions have to continue to function. Business has to continue to function in this country. What happens when you have economic and political shifts is everything resorts back to its mean. I said this in a previous video. Banks are going to lend to those who are most familiar to them and best qualified. And the entire system is going to climb up to the most familiar and qualified sources. So those of us in the underserved communities, those of us who come from marginalized communities, those of us who come from the underbanked, the not lendable, those of us who come from that walk of life and those backgrounds, we're the first to get shut out when everything gets, unstable or things become insecure. We're the first to get shut out. We're the first ones to get cut. You have to do your work, especially when things are stable. If you are somebody who believes things were better under Joe Biden, then I hope you took the time during those 4 years to do the work to get prepared for the next 4 years of a President Trump. Because at the end of the day, whether you agree or disagree, I don't see the man as the Messiah or as the Antichrist. At the end of the day, he's a politician. He has his views on things. He's going to put things in place based on his constituency and the people that support him. Somebody else is going to come in 4 years behind him and probably swing things to the extreme the other way around. At the end of the day, money is going to keep circulating. Business is going to keep flowing. When things are moderately stable, you have to be doing the work to prepare for the swings and the extreme swings that we're dealing with right now. So what can you do? What can you do? CDFIs are crucial. I've had the privilege of working with them directly in my career path as a business banker. I've had the gift of working with the True Funds, the Lift Funds. They're directly in my community, in my state in Southeast Louisiana. And I've worked directly with them, with my business clients, to help them get access to capital. So I've worked with these institutions. I've done speaking engagements, seminars, and direct referrals with these institutions. They're extremely helpful, extremely helpful. So many of the mom and pop businesses in my community are so reliant on institutions like this, because I work for a mainstream financial institution that generally, conventionally speaking, you ain't got a shot when you walk in the door. They're looking for prime borrowers. They're looking for credit, cash flow, and collateral. So when I work with these CDFIs, they're a godsend. They are going to continue to function, but they're going to be in even more limited capacity. One, continue to tap in with them. They're still around. They're still operational. Find your local CDFIs in your community and tap in with them. Find the local credit unions And the banks, the big bank that I work with funds CDFIs. So don't get it twisted. I'm not telling you not to work with these big banks, but you need to dig into their financial resources and empowerment tools and resources that they have in a backdrop that don't get a ton of marketing and advertising. You need to get connected with the community development people in those institutions, the business bankers. They're the ones tied in. We are the ones tied in to these CDFIs and these other alternative financial resources. You need to get connected with your bank. I'm going to shoot a totally separate video, and probably an extensive one, because the heartbeat of this channel is about relationship banking and bankability, because that is the not only correlation to wealth and financial health and wealth and well-being, but I believe it to be causation to it. You have to get connected with the human capital in your mainstream financial institutions, because they're the ones really funding these, philanthropically and, to some degree, profitably investing in these CDFIs and CDFI-like resources and grant programs and, alternative funding methods that you as a business owner, aspiring business owner, or freelancer can be leaning on to operate, launch, grow your small business. Tap in with your financial institution. Find these CDFIs in your market. They're still around. And whatever shifts they're making, they can still at least guide you or provide you with some kind of resources and help connect you with, resources they have, or potentially even like partner with you with the mainstream financial institutions to still get you access to the financial resources you need. At the end of the day, right now, in the uncertain times we're in, only the rich, the well-established, the well-connected are going to eat right now. If you aren't in that bucket, or at least positioning yourself to be in that bracket, the next thing you need to do is lean on these alternative resources, advocate for them, and lean in with them. Get connected with them. Advocate so they can continue to exist, and tie in with them so they continue to have purpose. You tapping in with them and getting resources from them gives a voice, it's like a silent vote that these institutions and these resources need to continue to exist. So by all means, I am urging you, tap in with these CDFIs, tap in with your local credit unions, community banks, all of the financial institutions, the big ones, the small ones. Dig into the weeds and don't stop until you get connected with the relationship bankers that can tie you in with the professionals in the CDFI world, in the grant program world, that are being funded by these big banks, funded by these community institutions and credit unions, and government agencies. Tap in with them. Get tapped in, get funding from them so you can continue to participate in the economy for your own financial health and well-being, and for the financial health and well-being of your community. You are likely a necessary small business or a creative in your community that your community needs. So get tied in with that. Get tied in with these institutions. I'm going to wrap this video up for now because I can talk endlessly about it, but I want you to comment down below. Are you familiar with CDFIs? Are you familiar with these types of alternative lenders and financial resources? If so, comment ones you've worked with or at least heard about in the comment section down below. If not, if you're brand new to this, let me know what questions you have or curiosities you have. I work with them directly. I have pretty good familiarity with them, so I can probably provide you with some guidance and maybe even tap in with you one-to-one and help you find some and connect with them in your backyard. So comment down below. If you're running a small business and need access to capital, I'm a business banker by trade. Literally, relationship banking is the backbone to this channel. And I also help you maximize your borrowing capacity so you can basically customize your own blueprint for prosperity. So comment down below and let me know if that's something you need assistance with. Other than that, I want you to like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel so the channel can continue to grow, reinvest, and support you, and support and reinvest back into you. I want you to get in the description section so you can tie in with me on Instagram as well. That'll be in the description section. Other than that, to all my pioneers, welcome back. To my new viewers, welcome in. I want each and every one of you to stay focused, stay in motion. I'll see y'all soon.